How would you read Secretary Brooke Rowland's message that has just been put out on social media platform X that says, thank you, President of the United States, for delivering for our American farmers. The new US-India deal will export more American farm products to India's massive market, lifting prices and pumping cash into rural America.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I mean, this was my apprehension and concern. In fact, before coming to the show, this is one of the points that I wanted to flag, that we should be very careful in celebrating any victory, so as to speak. And Donald Trump has bullied his way in to making India submit towards what would be a terms of trade for deal that is clearly in America's interest. I don't see an enormous benefit for India in the medium or short or medium term. I mean, over the long term, we don't really know how these deals play out. So there has to be a lot of evidence-based analysis. But my concern is connected to what the US Secretary for Agriculture is saying, which is India will now, given it's bringing down its tariff rate to almost 0% on $500 billion worth of American goods in energy, agriculture, coal, you will find the domestic industrial capacity to be affected, if not in a major way, but at least in a significant way, particularly business.
Okay, because we do not know the products that will come in. Even in agriculture sector, when negotiations were on, Professor Mohan, we were told that there are certain things like cranberries which are not really mass produced in India. If they were to come in, or in EU's context, we were told that only when negotiations were on. So again, ultimately that legal scrubbing of the final document, and we still do not know what's finally permitted and what's not. If some high-end blue cheese that's not made in India, if in large quantity, if that came in, some niche products came in, it wouldn't impact the mass market. Your reading of that thought process?
No, I would just say that if American corn, American meat, and what you would consider as American dairy, if these three even are able to come into the Indian market at the tariff rate which is spoken of, that is 0%, this will decimate India's meat, at least agricultural sector, in a huge and enormous way.
But is there any word that American meat is coming in, or that's your assumption?
Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. I think you've called me on the show. You should allow me to finish.
No, only to understand based on facts so far. Is there any word that American meat has been permitted, or is corn being permitted for human consumption or for fuel? Again, I'm only going on the basis of arguments that were made when the deal was being negotiated.
Well, if we are going on the basis of arguments, you need to hear both sides of the story, all right? And if you called me on the panel, allow me to finish. So point number one. Point number one, agriculture, energy, coal, even steel for that matter, if these sectors are allowed to be opened up to the American economy at a 0% tariff rate, be aware that India's domestic industrial capacity cannot hold that level of capacity and competition. We should be very honest. The deals with the EU and what we are negotiating with the US is being carefully discussed right now. The effects of this on our economy will take a substantive period of time. Deals don't work, or effects of these don't work in the immediate sense. It takes at least, and I'm not very clear why we had to really rush our way into a deal with the US, because if you look at the facts, not arguments, facts, India's exports in December jumped 20%, despite Trump's tariff war. In fact, despite a 50% tariff that was coming on India, India's exports to the US have actually gone higher. The data shows you that 1/5 in November. We have been doing trade with the US, mostly in services, which have been increasing. Its exports on goods have been at 38.13 billion. So the economy which was struggling with the tariffs was not the Indian economy at large. It was the US economy. I can think of two labor-intensive sectors which had a huge impact. One is textiles, which dipped roughly around 22.4%, and gems and jewelry around 39.4%. But telecom instruments, smartphones, exports in that surged by 216.9%, despite American tariffs. So I think the Minister of Commerce, Piyush Goyal, leading with the trade delegation, was trying to hash out a carefully negotiated deal. We should look at it in fine print. I am very skeptical about this call, which has happened between two leaders, because what it may do is push back against the carefully traded negotiating deal that had
Again,
already
is that an
happened.
assumption that it may
No,
push
no, no,
back?
it's not an
Skepticism
assumption.
is welcome.
No,
Skepticism is
it's not an
welcome, but my
assumption. I'm
point
just
is
telling you
skepticism that's
facts.
based on facts. In terms of, when you
See, one
mention
of the
meats,
things-
is there
one of the
any
things you have to
evidence
be
to
very
suggest that
careful.
there's a give
One of
on
the things you have
American
to
meat?
be-
Because once that fine print is there, I will come back to you for more on that. I've just been told, I've been hearing of corn and cranberries and stuff like that. But let me bring in Pranay Upadhyay, who's been in touch with sources both in the